Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Black Gold featuring Texas Tea, the Rise edition. All of us are here again, and we're so glad that you've chosen to join us. We're so excited that you're back. And tonight, we're talking about Black love. Not the romantic kind, no, but the sacred kind. The complicated, beautiful love between Black women. You know, the kind that braids hair, that corrects you, and sometimes wounds you,
Mm.
but can also be the very thing that heals. You know, here on the Black Gold featuring Texas Tea Show, we're honest. We are warm, and sometimes we have spicy conversations, but they're always served with grace. And tonight, the tea is all about us.
Mm.
In this Rise edition, we're having the conversation we don't always have, you know, about sisterhood, about tension, about love, and about choosing each other anyway, you know? Because if we can't be safe with each other, where are we going to be safe? I know you ladies will agree that back in the day, we grew up watching Black women laugh together, argue together, build together. Remember Girlfriends and Living Single? You know, I mean,
Yes.
they
Yes.
who can remember Regine talking crazy to what was her name? The Kim.
Sinclair or anybody.
Yes,
Oh yeah. She
we
talk crazy to
saw
everybody.
we saw them going through all kinds of various perspectives, and these
Mhm.
TV shows have displayed those various perspectives of Black women and how they engage with each other.
Mhm.
The only thing is, real life doesn't come scripted. Real life requires work. So we want to think about, what did those shows get right about us? Or what did, Black love between us really look like in real life? So when you think about that, what are your thoughts as you consider women in your lives that
Mm.
inspired you or shared some life lessons with you that ultimately caused you to pause and may even cause you to make life impacting decisions? What are your thoughts, ladies?
Wow, that's a great thought to think about, Teresa, because the first person that comes to my mind is my grandmother, Miss Dorothy DeQueer. That
Oh,
woman shows so much love, Black love for sure. I learned that, open up the doors when somebody's hungry. Open up your doors if somebody needs just a place to stay, to lay their heads down. I learned about being kind and considerate of others through her. I just learned a lot, but not always just Black love on the soft side. I learned some tough Black love from her too.
Mhm.
And because I saw that Black love, I was her best friend. I never crossed her because when I saw her get disciplined, ooh, you did not want to cross Dorothy the queer because
we have
she
that
didn't mean,
reputation.
Mhm.
yeah,
It,
she,
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of times when we look at what's happening in TV, they present us because of the
hmm
stories they've heard. Maybe sometimes it's through Black producers who had a grandmother maybe similar to yours, Denise. What
hmm
about you, other ladies?
Yeah, I kind of most of my life I was around my father's grandmother and my mom's grandmother. But my father's grandmother, on my father's side, she opened her door up. In fact, fun fact, in fact, she during the I think it was 1988 elections, my
hmm
grandmother's house was a poll.
Oh,
Yeah,
Wow, that is
so
awesome.
yeah, so and I had turned 18, so I was able to vote. And that was that year Clinton came in, I believe. Yep. And so she used that. That was a polling place. So when
Wow.
I talk
that
about
is
people welcoming
amazing.
people, that
Mhm.
is something she always cooked. Now I'm gonna tell you, sometimes she would entertain for days at a time with people, and that's how I used to make my money on the side. So,
hmm
serving coffee, tea, cooking
Okay.
sandwiches. Them ladies
Grandma was a hustler.
yeah,
Ain't
I was thinking the exact
right.
we
same thing.
always find out
Hustle.
how to make that money, huh, Shantae? You know you
Mm-hmm.
gonna find a way.
And I'm
That
telling you,
Jamaican
she
right
didn't
there,
play,
right?
huh? She
She
didn't
says,
play, did not play. So I'm telling you, if you
hmm
come in wrong, she gonna send you out right. So,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's
so
right.
that's
Wow.
things that I've learned, but that showed me sisterhood too.
Hmm.
How ladies could gather together, and even when they had disagreements,
Hmm.
they knew how to bow out gracefully, leave. My grandmother never had to put nobody out. She was like, okay. When she said okay, they knew to go.
I was
Mm-hmm.
gonna say there had to be a signal, and I was gonna say, what's her name? They probably was off for each other. Look, it's
Maddie
time to
Johnson
go.
didn't play. Maddie Johnson didn't go. So,
I love it.
Wow.
Yeah, that
That's
reminds
awesome.
me of my grandmother, my nanny. That was her
Mm.
name, nanny for
Okay.
me. Man, nanny was that person that she would bite you, but she would
Mm.
gently bite you. You knew what
Hmm.
she meant by it. It was one of those where,
mhm,
you hear that term bless you. She would
Hmm.
use that in a different way. Bless you. And you
Hmm.
knew she was cussing you out. But
mhm,
bless you, yeah, so you had to interpret how that would go
Uh-huh.
for how that sounded. You had to know the
Right.
sound of it. But my grandmother was the type of woman that, people on the streets, like Natalie said, like Denise said, if she said, as long as we have floor space, you got a place to sleep.
mhm,
I
Hmm.
don't care if it's a couch, I don't care wherever we got space in
Exactly.
here. There's a wall, there's
Hmm.
four walls in here. We not taking up all of that space. So we always were able to help somebody that had, a need. And she was always there to lift you up. No matter you coming in drunk, you coming in from whatever it was that you were doing, she never made you
Hmm.
mhm.
feel like, this is wrong. Baby,
Hmm.
go on in there and clean yourself up.
Right.
Come on out and have something to eat. She
Right.
never said anything that was like, girl, you out there, whatever, whatever. It
No
was, come on
judgment.
in
Judging.
here, get
No
yourself
No
judgment.
cleaned
judgment.
up.
Hmm.
No judgment.
Well,
No
No.
judgment at
I
all.
tell
I
you
loved
what,
it.
I'd love to say that my grandmother was the same on that tip. She was not. My
Mm.
grandmother, and I only heard stories because both my grandfathers passed before I was even born. But my grandfather was the one because my mom said they had people they used to call gypsies because
Mhm,
their
Uh-huh.
house sat right on a main street and these people would pass by. And my grandfather, which is why I don't know about y'all, but you know how we always cook and we always have leftovers because it's so
mhm,
much.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
My grandfather said if there was food, if all the food was gone,
mhm,
somebody was hungry. So
Mm.
he didn't never want there to be all the food was gone because any of the things was left, he was going to give to the gypsies. That's one.
Okay.
Well,
mhm,
well, I think that kind of ticked my grandmother off. She didn't like it. And my grandmother was devilish. Her
mhm.
name was Laura. My sister was named after her. But when I say my grandmother was my superhero. She was devilish to all of them. But y'all know, for me, she lived in a one. I'm not trying to make it short, but she lived in a one-bedroom house in the backyard.
Mm.
Mhm.
And I had to be about 4 or 5 because I wasn't even in first grade yet, right? You go to jail the day if your mom leave you at home by yourself and you're that young,
Mhm.
right? But my
Mhm.
grandmother was in the backyard and my mom came to me and said, "Look, you're a big girl. You can do this. You just stay in here and don't you bother Big Mama, okay?"
Mhm.
Shoot, she left. I let her leave. And as soon as she got away, I picked up, I knew how to make a phone call. I called my grandmother. I said, "Big Mama, Mama told me to stay in the house. I want to come out." She said, "You just come right on out here."
Mhm.
Hmm.
And we had fun. There was a Pentecostal street down, Pentecostal church down the
Mhm.
street, and we could hear
Mhm.
the music. And we would sit there in
Mhm.
her little living room and listen to the music. And then when Mom came home, you see the lights in the yard, and she would say, "Here come your mama. Now you run in there, play like you sleep. Don't make no noise. Now get in the bed, play like you sleep."
Mhm.
And Mom would go in the house, and of course I wasn't there. And so she would come out to Big Mama's house, and as soon as she walked in the door, Big Mama no Mama is Tara. Yes, she is, and I cannot believe you left that child in the house by herself. Well,
Yeah.
let me go. No, you don't go get her. She's asleep. Leave her alone.
Wow.
Hmm.
So I had a devilish grandmother. But the thing that I see in all of our stories, even about that lady, she found a way to love us that made us
Mhm.
feel special as individuals. It didn't
Yeah.
make any difference what was happening to anybody else. She took care of us. And I'd be willing to bet that every person in my family has their own Big Mama story. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
Well, I can tell you, I'm sorry,
No,
I
you
can
don't.
tell you that my mother's mother was my preschool teacher. And I lived in
Mm.
Chicago. So,
How cool is that?
That is
Yes,
cool.
that is awesome.
yeah, my Head Start teacher, she was my Head Start teacher when it was time. And believe it, I was living in Chicago. I graduated from Head Start valedictorian.
Look.
Had a cap and
You
gown
Was she
got to
on,
being
be top of the
partial?
class. Right, right, right.
and I had a
Head
speech.
Start.
And I had a speech, and she worked with me and worked with me so hard on. And when I got up there to speak, I started crying.
Mm.
Oh,
And my brother had to come up there and stand next to me. He a year younger than me in order for me to do my speech. But I mean, and because I left Chicago when I was 6, going on 7, I didn't spend too much time with my mother's mother anymore. But most of my time was in between both grandmothers when I was younger, and we all were living in Chicago. So some of my memories of things of even my mom's mom baking cakes, and she raised 12 kids.
Mm.
She stayed at home until my auntie was old enough to go to school. So she had never worked till my auntie, the 12th child, finally went to school and she went
Wow.
to work.
okay.
Mm.
She didn't even get a driver's license
Wow.
until my aunt,
Mhm.
who's 10 years older than me, mind you, when she started going to school, then finally, as my aunt, I think was like a teenager, my grandmother started to drive right after my grandfather passed. So,
Mm.
she was very artsy. I have pictures because she loved to knit. So she knitted me a vest. So I have a school picture with this knitted vest on because
But what I see she did in that was,
Mhm.
even though it was knitted, it sounds like she had an eye for fashion as
she
well.
did. And she
Mhm.
made my kindergarten dress.
See?
Wow.
So that
Isn't
was
that
the art
something?
side. So I had different
Mhm.
types of grandmothers on each side because my grandmother on my father's side was the cook. And that's where I got my cooking talent from. She was the only black woman in the neighborhood that knew how to make hot tamales.
Mm.
Made some
Wow.
That's
Love it.
different.
Love
yeah,
Yeah,
it.
she could
I
taste
want
them.
some tamales now.
Right.
Yeah.
I love
And that's how I
tamales.
learned how to, I mean, to make tamales. And, every time y'all talk to me, y'all know I'm cooking something
That's what
different
I was just
Mhm.
thinking. Yeah.
Mhm.
from her. Did she taste and say, oh, I can make this at home? I'm like,
Yeah.
all right.
Mhm.
Wow.
And every time I
That's
say,
a special,
Yeah.
special, special woman right there.
For
Can
so,
just
sure.
know what she tasting and then know how to do it.
That's some skills. That's some
yeah,
skills that are
Yeah.
often
food,
lost on
egg foo
some of us.
shrimp fried rice, any food. So that's why I learned how to cook a lot of things that I've cooked and try, she inspired me to do all of that.
That's
Mhm.
Wow.
What
awesome.
about any of you ladies?
Well,
I
when
love
you
it.
mentioned about your grandmother starting to drive, go to work, and all that at a late age, you reminded me of the most important woman in my life right now, and that's my mama. And she did not drive until I got in high school. And the only reason I needed someone to drive because she was at home. She became a stay-at-home mom when I got in high school. My school zone changed, and so I can no longer ride the bus. So I needed to have a drive, like somebody to drive me to school because I couldn't walk, as it was way too
Too
far. It was
far.
way past. It was way too far. So she just decided. She just made the decision. Well, I'm gonna learn how to drive. And so my dad, like, if you learn how to drive, I'll get you a car. And just like that,
That's
mama
motivation.
learned. I was like,
Right.
she 36 years old and never driven a day in her life. Everybody
Wow.
said she had to take her to work and everywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
that just showed me so much bravery my mom had
Mm-hmm.
because, but not because of that, the bravery I saw in it, she was also a woman of limited literacy. She
Mm-hmm.
really, she did not read well. Um, Women back then, some of them, they did not have the best education coming out of the 40s, 50s, and 60s, right?
Especially
They just
black
got,
women.
Like
exactly,
Yeah.
they just
Yeah.
got passed
we
on
knew
and
how to
passed through.
clean, clean and
Right. And so, yeah. And so a lot of her stuff, I helped her with doing applications or this or that. And she went, and this is where I say her breakthroughs is she failed the test twice. So they said that, well, you have one other option. You could do a verbal test.
Mm-hmm.
And doing the verbal test, mom passed and got her license. And
That's amazing.
she's driving still.
Yeah. And that's really
Still
awesome
driving.
that she did that, because what else is I'm thinking as you said that there was no consideration for reading challenges, even if they had been taught. There was
Mhm.
no special assistance to help them. So that was a
Right.
blessing from the Lord that they maybe saw
Hmm.
something in her and allowed her to have a verbal test, and the fact that she could pass it but just not be able to read the details.
Right.
Like she probably was not the only one, since they had
Right.
it available as a resource. Let me
Hmm.
ask you this. When we talk about sometimes how women don't necessarily connect, or maybe they have not so great experience. I think the history of our culture says a lot of women may have suffered in various ways, and still they rose. How about that?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I
Hmm.
think Shantae, you were telling us about someone that was really special to you.
Mm-hmm. So for me, I had graduating high school, I had a lady that was in my family at the time told me that I would not amount to anything.
Mm.
This was the day of graduation, at graduation.
Wow.
Said I wouldn't amount to anything, that I would be on welfare raising a whole bunch of kids. And you think about the impressionable young woman that I was at the time. First of all, I graduated a year ahead of class.
Mm.
The first woman in my family to graduate, first person, period, let alone woman, but the first person in my family to graduate from high school and then to be knocked down by somebody who I respected was it was pretty harsh. It was pretty hard, to even rise from that. And
Mm.
so for years, I carried that with me. Like I wouldn't amount to anything. And anytime I failed at something, it would really like harbor
Hmm.
inside of me, like I couldn't do it. And it really wasn't until probably about maybe 10 years ago, 5, 10 years ago, that I
Mm.
decided that I wasn't going to let that rot inside of me anymore.
Mm.
That it is we all have the ability to get above things, but I
Mm.
also had to pause and forgive what was said.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And not only what was said, but I had to also forgive the person who said that, because anytime I seen that person, I really felt that inside of me,
Mm.
because of you, I didn't do X, Y, and Z. Because of you, I failed at X, Y, and Z. And I had to stop giving that person the authority over my life, the power over my
Mhm.
life. And I didn't realize that that was something that I held on to until, like I said, about 5 to 10 years ago is when I
Mm.
really started to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
But here's another thing. It's so coming around that corner, this woman called me and
Mm.
said to me, I've always admired the woman that you are, even at your
Wow.
graduation. I knew you will become something of a success. And I'm
Mm.
like,
Really?
hmm.
You tell your
Mm.
So now
mouth,
that didn't come
Mm.
out your mouth though.
right?
So,
Yeah.
you take a look at that and say, huh, that's interesting that, you felt like that was something that should have been what came out of your mouth.
Mhm.
Not the opposite. But for years I've held and harbored that against you. But that was you were saying that what, in a defense, or how is that? So I learned that, we have to be cautious of the words that come out of our mouth.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Because I
true.
know
So
growing
true.
up, y'all remember this: sticks and stones will break your
May break
bones,
my
but words will
bones.
never
Words
hurt you,
never hurt.
right?
They do.
That's not true.
Words hurt.
They hurt.
And they
Mhm.
last
They hurt.
longer. Sometimes you might wish
Yeah.
you got hit with a stick or a stone, because that
Or
Cause that'll go
stone. At
away.
least it was sting for a minute and go away, but the words stick and penetrate inside of you, right?
Mhm.
absolutely. And you know what's
So
crazy,
yeah.
Shantae? I think that you mentioned this. I don't know if you said it to her, like if you, because in the moment, I'm sure you were thoroughly confused. But people who say things that are crushing to us in the moment, they go
They
on to live their lives. And a
Mhm.
lot of times they have no idea
can't forget.
the
Mhm.
Yes.
words burn,
Yes.
how they
Mhm.
Yes.
almost tattooed or branded you for a long period of time. And it's very tough to recover. But you know what? I'd be willing to bet you love her anyway.
I love her still. Yeah. Yeah. And I still walk, I say hi, speak, all of that good stuff.
There's a
Still
lot
keep on
from
moving.
that, though. I think
If
there's a
she had
lot to be
tissue
said for
on
that.
her shoe and we out in public, I would get it off of her shoe
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's the woman that I am, you know.
exactly.
Right.
And so even though we do have women that have been a part of our journey and a part of our stories that were rotten, rotten apples, we just had to learn how to pluck them out and to keep moving on.
Well, for sure, and giving them grace on some level. The thing that I consider is the fact that we have no idea what groomed them to become
Correct.
that. But I'd
Right.
be willing to believe that male, female, white in their day, they may have endured some things that caused them to only have that to give.
Mm.
And she may have thought that she was lighting a fire under you, because I think a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
of that day, either whether it was in their own anger
Mm-hmm.
of how dare you do something I couldn't do,
Yeah.
or someone said it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's one of the things we want to come out of this discussion is to recognize that I, I struggle to say all love is good love, because it's not.
It's not.
Just like
Mm-hmm.
my just like the as I said in the opening, there are some things that people do, maybe I have done, I pray not, that it burns.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to choose whether we embrace them anyway. And so I
But
think
even the burn builds the resilience in
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
us if
And
we allow
mm-hmm.
it to. For
Right.
some, that would take a person out, but
Yes.
for others, we just talked about our
No.
grandparents, our
Mm-hmm.
grandparents being that foundation that helped to, make us the women that we are, the love that we have, the unconditional love that we have from our
Right.
grandparents helped us to build that foundation so that we didn't sink in, where some women don't have that. Some women didn't have that Mima, that Amma, that, nanny,
Big Mama.
big mama. Some
Mm-hmm.
people didn't have those
Madia.
women. They wanted them. They heard about us, but
Yeah.
they didn't have the
Yeah.
Medias, they didn't
Right.
have those grandparents in their life to help to build those foundations. So they don't have the resilience, the elasticity that we have,
Mm-hmm.
as we've continued to grow through things that we've faced. And so grow even that bring us to present day now. We are cautious of how we treat other women based off of
Mm-hmm.
that foundation that we have built.
And not that
Agreed.
our mothers. Our mothers played an integral part too, because
Yeah.
yes, our mothers have.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, being a teenage mom, experiencing those things where people looked at you a little different when you were going to high school pregnant in 12th grade. The adults, their expectations of you, of what they thought you would be because you're a teenage parent,
Mm-hmm.
I think that if I didn't have my mother to support and my whole family to support, but especially her, being that she was, I was a second generation of doing the same thing, because she was too. In fact, we had our children around the same ages each time. That helped me push forward. That I'm not just going to be a woman that just continued to just have kids with, and because I was in high school, I was going to stop there or drop out, or, because I had my child at the beginning of my 12th grade year, and I still continued, went on to graduate and move forward. And went, in fact, the crazy thing is, I even had to start working and going to school and going to college, and my daughter's father wasn't even working. So
Oh,
I
wow.
inspired more, and I was a single parent.
Mm-hmm.
Just the things of, and you've heard those hurtful things. Some of my grandmother's friends and them would say, "Oh, okay, so you a great grandmother kind of early," and you would hear those things, and that's fine. But I still, ladies, I respect, because I believe killing them with kindness, and I'll show you better than I can tell you anything,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
always. And I guess till this day, some of them ladies have passed on, of course. Um, some of well, none of my mother's friends, I was, because some of them were in the same boat as my mother, so they weren't judgmental. But some of the other ladies, in fact, one of the ladies that met, I did. Caroline was my daughter's grandmother on her father's side. I did, because I felt that was my first family, because I was trying to build a life. Um, but when we ended up breaking up, it was mentioned that she felt that I was going to bring him down.
Oh, wow.
Mm,
Well, this is
mm,
the thing that's cool about that, though, is that even though we've struggled through some of the life's, as they would say these days, life be lifing,
mhm,
Mm-hmm.
there are other young girls, young people that watch us just as we watched the women around us, the people around us
Mm-hmm.
as we were growing up.
mm,
And that's I think it was you, Shantae, that was saying that's why we have to be mindful of
Mm-hmm.
what are we leaving for them to stand on as a foundation.
mhm,
What are we leaving to them to be proud of so that they stand with their shoulders straight and that they have the courage to push through even in adverse seasons because life will give those to us regardless of what we may think.
mhm,
Um, I think it's interesting too that you were saying, I think Denise, you might have been saying earlier about how our mothers, and my mother was born in 1916, and so she would
mm,
probably be a grandmother to some of you, but education was not something that was their friend.
mhm.
But they did stuff anyway. They found a way anyway, man. And that's what I mean when I say, you know, we stand taller, we rise stronger
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
because of these women and the sacrifices that we'll never know that they made. You know,
Right.
we
Right,
saw them, we saw some that they made, but there are sacrifices that we'll never know
Nope.
right.
that they made to ensure that we were okay. And
Mm-hmm.
Mhm,
I was hoping to have our fearless leader on this show because she's certainly one in a different capacity that I respected a lot, Miss Tanya Edwards,
mm,
um, because of the things that she taught me just by being.
mhm,
She was never trying to necessarily show out or anything. She just was.
mm.
And to know some of the health challenges that she faced that we didn't know about
Mm-hmm.
until she was
Right.
leaving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about tenacity,
Mm-hmm.
talk about resilience, talk about determination. And that's what I hear in the stories that you ladies have shared tonight. Are there any other stories you'd like to share?
I want to share one.
Sure.
You talked about our fearless leader. Well, I want to talk about one that we got right here, and that's you.
Yes.
Oh, Denise.
You have inspired me so much, and I
Yeah.
want to say thank you.
Yes.
I'll never forget
Yes.
you telling me, when you're on a plane and they tell you about if there's a crash or we're about to crash and you have to take the mask. You don't take the mask and put it on nobody else. You first have to put it on you because you got to take care of you first. And I've been trying to really do that, Miss Teresa. And I would have never really have been able to do that many days if I hadn't gotten that from you. And I am so blessed by you.
God bless you.
You are not just a fearless leader, you're a fearless woman. You're a woman of God. You're a woman of virtue. You're a woman of strength. And you're definitely a woman of love. And I appreciate you for all of that. And so continue to rise because you have made my life rise higher than I can ever imagine. Just knowing you and being in your life. So
Wow, I wasn't expecting that, but God bless
Yeah.
you. God
Well,
bless you.
hey,
Wow.
we still here. If it
We
wasn't for you,
are.
If it
Um,
wasn't for Teresa,
what I
yes.
yes,
will say
yes.
is, thank you, first of all. God bless you. And I'm excited because the other part of being a woman is recognizing that though I didn't have children, It didn't mean that I could not create a legacy. And I learned that through many people, much like yourselves. Because even when we were talking about, all of you are mothers from different perspectives, all of you. And it took someone to sit me down and pour into me, because all I ever wanted to be was a mother, you know. So I just thank the Lord that something that I've said or done has blessed somebody. You know, I'm not going to get too sentimental because I don't want to start crying. I'm really fighting. Look at you, Denise. Tag, it's my turn, I guess. But there's a song that says, if I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, if I can stand with somebody who's been traveling wrong, then my living is not in vain. Yes. And that, if all of us can recognize that God made every one of us on purpose with purpose. And if we can be ourselves, not trying to be, not attempting to be anything like anyone else necessarily, gleaning from the experiences of our sisters, pulling together the experiences and standing shoulder to shoulder as we rise collectively, then our living is not in vain. Because there's always someone watching, and we may never know who they are. But if we can stand collectively together and let those who are watching, whether they want to see us rise or not, because everyone doesn't want us to win, but God. So if we decide, even in this instance, to take the experiences that we've had, to reference the women in this month of March as Women's History Month, to look at the things that they have overcome, to see how the women in our history and some in our present, Michelle Obama, Tanya Edwards, have decided within themselves to stand firm and represent, then we can work with them. We can stand with them. We can encourage the beautiful young women that are coming up as little girls, Kennedy, that are coming up as little girls. What's Kennedy's friends, your granddaughter, Natalie?
Chloe.
Kennedy and Chloe and our dear friend Celia's little girl, to see them. They're watching us, y'all, just like we watched our aunts and grandmothers, and mothers and their friends. They're watching us. And if we can live in a way that allows them to laugh at themselves the way we do, that allows them to stand when they need to stand, that allows them to cry when they need to cry, and to take care of themselves, Denise, so that they can then become who we are now, because we have become our mothers.
Right.
You all still have your mothers, right?
And our grandmother.
Yeah.
And our grandmother. We're grandmothers.
I don't have any grandmothers. Yeah. I am a grandmother, but I don't have any.
Watch this. Y'all grandmothers.
You grand aunties.
Yeah, we adopted you in, so
Yeah.
I have to tell y'all this. I'm cracking up at myself because there's little kids up and down the street, and I was out talking to the little boy across the street about him having a championship game, and the little kids down the street, the ball was rolling down the street, and I heard them say, "Get the ball, man, get the ball." And he was like, "Man, get the ball." And it was just rolling away, and it was rolling toward me. And I heard one of them say, "I think that old lady gonna get it." I said, "I'm the old lady." And I kicked the ball back to them straight, I might add. I was so excited it was straight. I didn't know what to do. Y'all know I didn't know what I was doing. But I kicked it and I said, "And don't call me no old lady no more."
I'm glad you didn't miss the ball.
Right. But then it occurred to me, girl, you are an old lady to them then in high school.
Listen, I want to say real quick. I knew I was getting older when I went to the skating ring with the little kids.
Oh Lord.
And I fell and I said, And I love skate. I feel like I'm a good skater. But them kids that showed me,
Yeah,
not
they,
Time
uh-uh.
brings about a change, huh, Denise?
I,
very much so.
I'm not skating. I'm not doing it. I admire you from afar.
Me
I'm not
too.
doing anything that I know that could risk me. I almost did some double dutching. I said, Nat, if you double dutch this ankle and just make it all back, this knee be popped, snap, crackle, pop on that darn concrete.
Well, listen, ladies, we
Yeah,
we what I do see is that we still have our own youth, right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We're only as old as we think or feel.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I always say I might live a long time, but I'll never be old. That's what I
Mm.
think.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think about these women that have gone before us, I asked some of the ladies. My mother was a member of a club called the Sophisticates Club in Amarillo,
Mm.
and I watched as they all passed, especially after we lost mom. And it was the last one left, and I went to visit with her because I never saw my mom young, hanging out, being a young lady kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked Miss Ruth Sauls was her name. I asked her what was my mom like as a friend, and it was just funny to hear her say, "Well, your mama didn't." Just tell me if this sounds familiar. Your mama didn't take no stuff. Now she would help. She would help you,
Right.
but she lived her life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you handled it, you could handle it. But she didn't like a whole lot of mess, and she didn't deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
I said I resemble that remark.
Right.
And when we look at women in our history, the things that they had to overcome, the way that they had to have strength.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it was always an option, right? We either had
Mm-hmm.
to woman up, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they did whatever they could to just take care of their family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in homage to them, we are our ancestors' brightest dream.
Mm.
And we owe that with the world changing the way it is every day. We owe that same celebration of dream
Yeah.
to our future. So when we talk about all of these beautiful women in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
even the ones that sting us a little bit, right, Shantae?
Mm-hmm.
Whether we learned what to do or whether we learned from the lessons they learned what not to do, we learned. So still we rise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And tonight, when we consider women's history, we're honoring the women who helped us become who we are. However, they did it, the best of their ability was in place.
Mm-hmm.
Some might have been famous,
Mm-hmm.
but many were those everyday heroes who just loved us, corrected us where we were. Back in the day, anybody could correct you where you were standing,
Wherever you show out, that's where I'm
wherever
gonna
you.
roll you out.
That's it.
It took
And
a
they
community.
absolutely, and they prayed for us, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
They prayed for us, and it pushed us to be who we are today.
Yep.
So to those women, we say thank you
Cheers.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
Cheers.
to
Straighten
every
your
woman that's
crown.
listening, never underestimate the difference that you're making in someone's life right now.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that everything you do, someone sees it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we really stop and consider who we are, we're really more alike than we are different.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, as Texas T always tells you, today is the first day of the rest of your life. Let the rest of your life be the best of your life. This has been the Black Gold featuring Texas T Rise Edition. And if together, baby, we still rise.
Yes, we will.
Right?
Yeah.
Cheers, lady.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
Until next time, we love you.